FIM Trial World Championship leaves France behind and, after a 1,500-kilometre cross-border drive west, less than a week later lands in northwest Spain for round 2 of the 2020 campaign. The permanent trials facility in Pobladura de las Regueras plays host to the world's elite for the third time, following previous visits in 2011 and 2013. Following a season opener in Isola 2000 that provided 2 different winners, just 2 points separated the lead trio in the series standings. Victory at the season opener and back-to-back podiums gave Tony Bow the early edge, with Jaime Busto the only other rider to have made the top 3 on both days in France. Adam Raga's Day 2 victory, meanwhile, left the TRS man once again in touch and 5 points clear of his nearest rival from behind. Weather conditions were excellent in northwest Spain, but a mixture of 5 slippery river sections and some sizable steps would ensure a challenging 2 days in Trial GP. 12 riders from 4 different nationalities in the 2020 starting lineup, led by 5 Spaniards in the lead positions in the series. Benoit Bincaz left his homeland after a solid but unspectacular opening weekend and 8th in the standings. The season took a turn for the worse with an horrific crash on the opening lap in Spain. An injury to his left arm forced the Frenchman to end his day with 2 50-mark maximum laps and bottom of the pile in 12th. Jack Price was also hit hard by a crash that left him short of fitness and suffering a string of 5s, although the Brit had managed to successfully clean 2 sections compared to 1 for Bincaz and therefore took 11th on day 1. That result, though, dropped him 2 places in the standings from 9th. After 2 promising 5th-place finishes in France, Jorge CASALES tumbled back down the pecking order on Saturday in Spain. The Gas rider was already 9th after 2 laps when a mechanical problem struck, leaving him 10th and an unflattering margin behind the pack with 14 consecutive failed sections. Dan Pease capitalised on his rival's misfortune to secure his first ever top 10 finish in his 11th Trial GP start. A much improved performance compared to his bottom of the pile struggles on day 2 in France. The Jerko rider found himself in the battle for 6th place early on before failing 5 sections in each of the 2 remaining laps and finishing 9th. After a pair of 6th place finishes in France, it was another underwhelming weekend for Takisa Fujinami in Spain. 7 failed sections on the opening lap alone left the Japanese veteran with plenty of work to do on day 1. Fujigas finally found some of his customary rhythm on lap 3, but that was only enough to recover from 10th to 8th. Just 2 marks separated 4th from 7th on day 1 in Spain, and it was James Daville who came off the worst of the quartet. After a disastrous weekend in France, though, the Brit will have been grateful to find himself in contention in the closing stages of the day, particularly after a challenging first lap that had left him already 16 marks adrift of the podium places. Section 10 proved critical for Gironi Fajardo, the Spaniard a higher scorer there than any of his rivals, and it was only in the final section of the day that he slipped out of a 4th place he'd held for the majority of the trial, a frustrating loss of 3 points in the championship. An unspectacular day for the Jerko representative, with as many fiascos as cleans and a 69-mark score. The day belonged to the youngsters, 3 of the top 5 through this demanding trial, aged under 25. A consistent day for Mikel Jalabert, who was brought to the fore by a strong second lap in particular, on his way to only the 2nd top 5 finish in 45 Trial GP appearances. Having spent 4 years with Jerko and with only a short window to prepare for 2020 on gas machinery, Jalabert has done well to make a solid impression this season so far. After a tentative debut in France that saw him finish bottom in his first ever Trial GP, Gabriel Marcelli exploded into the top flight for real with an outstanding 4th position. With 5 consecutive fiascos in the early stages, he'd shown few signs of challenging at the front, but the Montesa man dug in well with the 3rd best final lap of anyone to snatch a career best result. The top three in the championship were separated by just 2 points coming into Trial GP Spain. And again, there was little to separate them in the early stages on day one. Adam Raga trailed the lead by just a single mark at the end of the opening lap. The lead trio at that stage covered by just 2 marks. But a hat-trick of failures in sections 1, 4 and 9 at every attempt saw the TRS representative gradually drop back. 38-year-old's consistency with 15 cleans during the day was nonetheless enough for him to claim third and maintain the same ranking in the series standings. Jaime Busto gained 10 marks on Raga through section 4 alone, recording a third straight podium on board the R2 with yet another runner-up finish. With 19 cleans, the 22-year-old outperformed the rest of the field on that measure. He suffered 9 fiascos as well, and that was too many to challenge for top spot. As his wait for a first victory with Vertigo continues, Busto can be satisfied with the consistency he showed during the day, as well as the step forward he's clearly made after an inconsistent 2019. Still short of full fitness after a training crash in the build-up to Trial GP France, Tony Beau put in another superhuman effort to claim his second victory of the season. This latest success was founded on his superb efforts in sections 2 and 4. He was the only rider to make it through the former on 2 occasions during the day. Already clear by 9 marks at the end of lap 2, Beau turned on the style with a stunning 3-mark final lap, mastering the river to complete a seemingly impossible section 9. Now all that remained was to cap an outstanding day with his 18th clean, confirming a 21-mark victory margin in what had, for the majority of mere mortals, been a high-scoring trial. Beau proved that missing the Spanish Championship round at the same venue in July would provide no ill effects in his home Grand Prix, as he extended his winning run on Spanish soil to 5 consecutive trials. 2020 produces its 3rd consecutive all-Spanish top 5, with Takehisa Fujinami and Benoit Bincaz both suffering their worst results of the season. Gabriel MARCELL and Mikel Jalabert replaced JORGE Fajardo and Jorge CASALES in the lead places. It's been a very positive day for us. I arrived not really 100%. Being injured means I can't really push and I have a bit of a slow arm, so it's a bit hard to be as aggressive as normal. Obviously in Isola the Sunday was really difficult, but on the Saturday here we've started well with a win that's very important for the championship. An excellent day for Mikel Jalabert sees him tie with Takehisa Fujinami and Jorge CASALES for 5th, but Gabriel MARCELL is the day's biggest winner, moving up from 11th to 8th overall. Tony Beau gets back to winning ways and extends his series lead by 3 points over Jaime Busto, with Adam Raga 3rd overall and now 7 points separating the top 3. With a win and a 2nd place each first time out in France, Alexander Ferrer and Matteo Grattarola arrive for Trial 2 Spain on 37 points apiece and 14 clear of their nearest rivals. A separate battle seemingly in prospect for 3rd overall. Alexander Ferrer is the only member of the Trial 2 crop to have competed in the category in past visits to Pobladura in either 2011 or 2013. But that counted for little in 2020 as the Frenchman was relegated outside of the top 2 for the first time this season. In a low-scoring trial, an underwhelming first lap left him 8th, and from there he did well with a clean 2nd lap just to recover a place on the podium. Pablo Suarez proved his season-opening podium in France was no fluke as he went one better with 2nd position on the opening day in his home round. Wearing the Spanish Federation's colours, Suarez, born just 100 kilometres north of the venue, failed just a single section, but that was enough to drop him back from top spot with only 2 sections remaining. And that paved the way for Matteo Grattarola to take his 2nd victory of the season and recover the championship lead. After a stuttering start with an errant dropped mark in the opening section of the day, the Italian recovered well and dropped just 3 marks in his final 2 laps to take a dominant 7-mark winning margin. A total of 23 cleans, 4 more than his nearest rival, to secure his 11th Trial 2 victory. An excellent 5-mark first lap for Jack Bryce was undone by 2 failed sections on lap 2 that dropped the British rider from the lead and down to 4th, his fellow countryman Toby Martin completing the top 5. Missing out only narrowly on the podium places, Jack Peace moves from 7th to 4th in the standings, Luca Petrella also gaining 3 positions with the season's best 6th. A home round podium for Pablo Suarez and his 2nd of the campaign. With Alexander Ferrer behind the Spaniard, Matteo Grattarola opens a 5-point series lead. 2 of those podium finishers from day 1 missed out on the podium places altogether in a second trial full of surprises in the Trial 2 class. With Alexander Ferrer and Pablo Suarez finishing well down the order, there was an opportunity for their rivals to impress. At the 42nd attempt, SONDRE HAGA finally secured his first Trial 2 podium. An impressively consistent performance on a more challenging second day, giving the Norwegian 3rd position. Just 11th in the overall classification last season, HAGA has clearly made a step forward during the winter, as he was within touching distance of 3rd at the season opener, and has become a consistent top 10 runner in 2020. Matteo Grattarola dropped more than half of his day 2 total in the first 5 sections of lap 1 alone, but a brilliant damage limitation ride from there saw him back to 2nd. With Alexander Ferrer restricted to just 5 championship points, the 2018 world champion makes a 12-point gain overall. With just a few weeks on board the TRS under his belt, Aniol Jalabert stunned the Trial 2 field with his first career victory. Twice a podium finisher on board the Scorpa over the last 2 seasons, the Spaniard made the leap to the top step this time, thanks to his 23 cleans compared to 20 for Grattarola after the pair tied on 17 marks apiece. 2 fiascos, 1 more than the Italian, could have cost Jalabert his moment of glory, but he kept his cool well with a single-mark final lap to take honours. Riding through the pain barrier after an elbow injury sustained in Isola 2000, Arnaud Ferrer put in his best result since his return to Trial 2 with 4th position, only 7 marks back from the podium, with 3 Spaniards in the top 5 on day 2. With Pablo Suarez notching just 4 points, SONDRE HAGA moves 3rd overall, but 4 riders sit within 7 points of the Norwegian at the halfway mark in the 2020 campaign. Up front, Matteo Grattarola is the only rider to have made every podium so far this season, and thanks to that consistency, he leads by 17 points with 2 weekends remaining. The second of 3 rounds in the FIM Women's Trial World Championship was again dominated by Emma Bristow. Battles for 2nd and 4th the focus in Spain. With 2 identical podiums at the season opener in France a week earlier, a clear pecking order had already been established among the lead contenders. With 2 second places in Isola 2000, BERTA ABELLAN looked well on her way to a 3rd consecutive FIM silver, but that ranking looked much more under threat on day 1 in Spain as she came home in 3rd. It was a consistent enough day for the Vertigo representative, but failures through Section 8 at each attempt contributed to her falling 2 marks short of 2nd. An excellent final lap made the difference for Sandra Gomez, who moved in front of Abellan with 2 sections to go and held on with just a single further dropped mark to take her best result since the 2019 season opener in Japan. The 2 Spaniards proved evenly matched throughout, suggesting there's more to come from this contest for 2nd in the world. Emma Bristow, though, finished 25 marks clear of the pack with 13 cleans compared to just 6 for Gomez. The reigning world champion was the top performer on every lap, failing 3 sections first time around, but successfully completing all of them at the 2nd and 3rd attempts. Madeleine Hoover gets the better of Caroline Morin for the 2nd consecutive trial and opens up a gap for 4th in the championship standings as a result. Meanwhile, Sandra Gomez beats BERTA ABELLAN for the first time in 7 trials to reignite the fight for 2nd overall, a gap narrowed to just 2 points between the 2 Spaniards chasing the silver medal. But with Gomez and Abellan now taking points from one another, Emma Bristow leads by a comfortable 11 at the 2020 season's halfway mark. A lower scoring second outing for the women in Spain ensured a closer fight for victory after Emma Bristow's day one dominance. The Brit aimed to continue her winning run and to complete a third consecutive unbeaten campaign. 24 marks dropped in sections 5 and 6 over the course of the day proved costly to Berta Abellan, who again dropped back from second position as the trial wore on. Elsewhere, she was the only rider to make it successfully through section 5, and she notched 16 cleans, but restricted to third for a second consecutive trial. She loses all of her gains from Trial GP France. Sandra Gomez came close to a shock first victory after a strong second and third lap performance. In the end, an early 7-mark deficit built up with key dropped marks in sections 6 and 8 of the opening lap proved too much to bridge. But the consolation in a 13th runner-up finish will be that it moves her back into second overall. Emma Bristow was left unsatisfied by her Day 2 performance, but did enough to extend her winning run and, in the process, move another step closer to the 2020 World Crown. In her favour was a flying start to the opening lap, which saw her register 7 cleans out of 10 and permitted her an error on section 2 of the second lap. 21 cleans overall, Bristow recorded her 4th straight win of the campaign to strengthen her grip on the title race.
Congratulations.
With Madeleine Hoover sadly injured during the morning warm-up and Caroline Moran failing to finish, only the podium trio reached the end of the weekend in Spain. With 2 seconds and 2/3 each in 2020, Sandra Gomez and Berta Abellan are tied for second place with 2 trials to split them in the battle for silver, next time out in Andorra. With a 16-point lead in her favour, even 2 4th-place finishes would now be enough for Emma Bristow to secure her 7th world title in just a week's time. With no less than 3 of the 12-rider field struggling to make it through the opening day, Trial GP Spain had already proven a stiff test for the world's elite. A higher level of difficulty around the course for Day 2, plus soaring temperatures, made for a physical challenge and a high-scoring trial. Now unbeaten in 3 World Championship outings at the Pobladura de las Regueras venue, Tony Bowe was the man to beat as the second day of competition got underway. Mechanical failure for JORGE FAJARDO saw him register the first DNF of the campaign, a non-score that looks set to be critical in the context of his 2020 season. Now down to 5th overall, Fajardo slips 23 points from the championship podium and into a 7-rider pack pursuing 4th in the standings. Jack Price ran through for a string of 5s to at least put championship points on the board, but injury sustained on Day 1 left him unable to compete. His fellow countryman Dan Peace remains at the bottom of the championship table, but looks increasingly as though he belongs with the big guns in Trial GP. On this occasion, he finished just 16 marks back from the podium in a close-fought trial, his second lap score going against him when he could have hoped for more than just 10th. Takehisa Fujinami suffered his worst Trial GP result since Andorra 2018 as he finished just 9th, and 1 mark clear of Dan Peace. Japanese veteran was again a slow burner as he finally found some form on lap 3. That was only enough to make up 1 place after a 29-mark second lap. A second lap crash in section 5 cost Jorge CASALES a shot at the top positions as he struggled for the remainder of the day with a leg injury. A damage limitation exercise for the Gas rider, who was able to salvage 8th and remain in the mix for 4th overall thanks to the struggles of Fajardo and Fujinami. Just 7 marks back from the podium, James Dable missed out after a string of 4 consecutive fiascos in the first half of the final lap. The Brit continues to show signs of improvement after a sluggish start to 2020, and he was at least consistent through the day as he matched the efforts of the youngsters ahead. Jaime Busto's string of 3 consecutive runner-up finishes was brought to an end as he struggled to recover from an uninspiring opening lap. The Vertigo man failed sections 9 and 10 at the first attempt, and although he matched his rivals for the rest of the day, he was unable to do much to make any real gains and finish 6th. Mikel Jalabert climbs to 4th in the championship standings thanks to his consistency in the first half of 2020. Despite an unsettling start to day 2 in Spain, which saw him suffer 5 consecutive fiascos, Jalabert steadied the ship well with an impressive total of 14 cleans. It was only in the final 3 sections of the day that he dropped out of the podium places. Benoit Bincaz became the first non-Spaniard to make the top 5 in any 2020 trial as he took 4th. The Frenchman had considered withdrawing from the action after suffering an arm injury less than 24 hours before, but he'll be glad he didn't. He secured the best result of his last 11 trials, and in the process moved back into the fight for 4th overall. An incredible debut podium was the result of Gabriel Marcelli's second trial GP weekend. In a close-fought contest, the youngster improved steadily through the day. He also picked up the big results when he needed to, getting through Section 2 for the first time on the final lap and becoming the only rider to clean Section 5. Strong weekend moves Marcelli 6th overall, just 1 point back from Mikel Jalabert in 4th. With Jaime Busto slipping down the order, Adam Raga was the man to capitalise thanks to a 3rd consecutive podium for the veteran 38-year-old. A strong start to the day ensured he remained in contention for victory throughout. Although 9 failed sections eventually kept him back from top spot, his score of 17 championship points was enough to move him back into 2nd in the overall standings. Just as on day 1, Tony Bowe gradually got into his stride as the trial wore on, and by the end of the afternoon he'd amassed an 8-mark winning margin. But his rivals certainly made it tougher for him than they had on Saturday, forcing Bowe to an excellent 12-mark final lap to secure his latest victory. In the end, his 16 cleans compared to only 12 for Adam Raga made the difference, an outstanding performance given the injury worries with which he entered the weekend. Reigning Trial 2 world champion Gabriel Marcelli came home all smiles after a superbly consistent 2nd weekend in the top flight, his first podium in the class in just his 4th attempt. But there was to be no stopping Tony Bowe, 3 wins out of 4 in 2020, victory number 115, and the records just keep on coming. Just 30 marks separate the top 10 at the end of a close-fought day 2 in Spain. Only the smallest of differences in scoring between those who made the podium and those who missed out. I'm really happy in general with the weekend. It's important to score wins in such a short championship. Given how I arrived here today, it's been a very difficult one. I made a lot of mistakes and we've been fighting throughout, up and down in the positions. In the end, it was tight and we've battled hard, so I'm happy. The season reaches its halfway mark with 7 Spaniards in the top 7 positions, but just 9 points separate places 4 to 10 in a generally unpredictable and close-fought campaign. Jaime Busto drops from 4 to 14 points down with his first failure to make the podium in 2020. Meanwhile, Tony Bowe now leads by 10 points, heading to his home ground of Andorra in a week's time.